Yo, what's good, guys? Have a requested video today. I get a lot of questions involving this topic, and this is going to be everything you could ever need to know about base running and managing base runners. It is the third aspect of the game. It is often the most overlooked aspect of the game, and it matters. It will not win you games, but it will lose you games if you do not do these things. So basically, the way we're going to get started is in options, like any good video, obviously. Your base running interface should be on analog select. It is the classic way. If you do like the button way, I've seen some people use that. It can be decent if that's what you're used to. Do not run the bases with only your bumpers. There's a time and a place for the bumpers, but in general, you do not just want to be holding down the bumpers. Bad things are going to happen. Which brings us to our next point, which is our camera. Your in-view play. I'm a big fan of high. I have always been on high. I think it is the best competitive camera view. Dynamic is cool. You get to see bat flips and stuff, but you do not know exactly where the ball is going to be. Whereas with high, I know basically from the time I touch the ball where it's going to be, if a fielder is going to catch it, and where my base runners on the bases can make it to by the time that ball is brought back into the infield. And so for that reason, I think high is by far the best competitive. Most high-end players do use like a high or something. Some content guys might use dynamic, but in general, from a competitive standpoint, high is going to be your best bet. Especially for guys that don't have the experience that a lot of those guys have. So we're going to start in team practice. I'm going to break down stealing and base running. This is probably by far like the most common question I get. So we'll go repeat. No. Else doesn't matter. Basically, I'm looking for Ellie, and we're going to go to the guy in front of him and run on first. So, this is the essentials of stealing. There are two components to stealing. There's your speed, and there is your steal. A lot of people think steal does a lot more than it does. It is a very, very cut and dry thing. Basically, whenever you steal, which you should do by tapping the left trigger, you don't have to hold it. That's just something else you have to think about. You used to be able to take off manually like that. Nowadays, I don't believe you can. So, you're tapping it. Speed is obviously how fast they get around the bases. That is all speed does. That is why it's very important for stealing, but it is not as important as the steal rating. Steal rating determines the chances of you getting a perfect, good, great, whatever you want to call it, jump. And the jump is whenever the runner recognizes that the pitcher is going home with the ball instead of trying to pick him off or something like that. And that influences your, steal success rate a lot more than something like just pure speed will. That's why people that steal online with Mickey Mantle are psychopaths. I think he has like 63 steal. He's going to get a pretty bad jump almost every time. Which is why if the opposing pitcher knows he's going, he's probably going to get out most of the time. So, another thing to mention with stealing. If you are stealing, you have manual control of the base runner that is stealing. You should be holding right on your right thumbstick to get an outside slide like that. You will see every top end player pretty much does an outside slide 90% of the time. Sometimes to third base, an inside slide is the right decision, but in general, an outside slide will almost always be the right decision. If you get in the habit of doing it by default, usually you're going to be in a better position than if you did not do it. Other than that, that's pretty much it, base run, like stealing wise. I'm going to get into why you should not be using the bumpers real quick. Let's say we are in, let's see, let's get righty up. Let's go second and third with one out. So we have our righty up. You can see we are on beginner just for this so I can ensure decent results. Obviously, if you did not know this, you lead off the bases by tapping the bumper. Left on the bumper increases the lead. Right on the bumper decreases the lead. You should almost never take a lead, to be honest. So, in general, I'm trying to get one down left field for us to tag on to show you guys why the bumpers suck. That's going to be a home run, unfortunately. Or a double, at least. So, not the best example there. Ideally, the situation I'm trying to force, I don't know if I'll be successful in it, is a fly ball to somewhat shallow left field where the fielder has the decision of either hitting the cut, throwing straight to third, or straight to home. basically, with runners on third and second, you will find that if the runner does not cross the plate in time and you are trying to tag the third, you're going to get tagged out at third. That run's not going to count, and you just choke that inning. Whereas if you ran only with the stick or used the stick in those type of situations, you could just send the runner from third to home and just leave the runner at second fine. Whereas if you're touching the bumper at all, they're both going to go. You're either going to get in a run down and get lucky and score the run, but the inning's still going to end, or you'll get tagged out before and the run won't count anyway. So that's what we're trying to get here. Obviously, on beginner, it's a little hard to mess up your timing that bad. So this is our situation. Obviously, that's going to be a hit. We'll pretend it's not. We'll pretend the fielder catches it, hits the cut man. The relay to third is perfect. He tags him out. Ellie does not cross the plate. We do not score, and the inning ends right there. That's why you should not be using the bumpers. It makes runners that you don't want to be running run the bases. And that's pretty much it for base running, right? So now we're going to get to the real reason I made this video. Also with base running, you should be conservative, right? There's a time and a place to steal, and it is not all the time, believe it or not. If you're trying to avoid a double play that your opponent is obviously going to pitch you for, then fine, you can steal. If you are positive, you can get a hit and run where you will get something you can touch. Sometimes it can be a good idea to hit and run. That's technically kind of a steal. And then if it's a 3-2 count with 2 outs, you should be stealing. That is baseball awareness. That is baseball knowledge. If you played in real life, you know you're going right there. No matter what happens, you're going. From the time the pitcher, actually goes into his windup to the ball crossing home plate, you should be sprinting as hard as you can. Same applies, right? Same rules apply. You should be taking off. You have to manually tell your runners to do that. They will not do that. It is very key. It can give you a run, or it can give you an extra base hit. So in general, that's a situation where you would also want to be stealing. Try to be conservative. You should be very, very confident that the runner can get to the base that you're telling them to go to if you are going to send them. If not, don't send them. You can always let the inning go longer and not force yourself to have an out because you're 50-50 on something. And a lot of that is experience and reps. You have to get comfortable with knowing how fast runners round the bases, right? You should be comfortable with anywhere from like 40 speed to 99 speed. You should roughly have a good estimate in your head of how fast those people round the bases and how fast outfielders can get the ball back in, because really that's the only time you're running bases is when you hit an extra base hit. So let's hop into managing base runners. So we're going to go runner on first. I believe Trey should be the one up for them. And actually, I would prefer a righty because they have worse pickoff moves. In general, a lefty will pick off to first base quicker than a righty. So we'll go Luke Weaver. And right here, I'm going to walk you through all your options. There's a lot of options to manage base runners. You don't have to do the same thing every time. So your default is going to be a step off. You do that by picking what pitch you want to throw and then tapping the left bumper. That is going to take you off the mound. The step off has quite a few advantages to it. It lets you throw to a base. Any base. You don't get locked into throwing to a base. This is very good against those cheesers that want to cheese on the base paths. They take like 2, 3, 4 steps, and you try to pick them off, but they just run anyway, and they're to the next base by the time your fielder can realize it and throw the ball. So you would tap left bumper, and you would throw to the base you want, and you can see we have plenty of time. We could even throw cancel it if we wanted to. So that is one option. So if, he was doing that cheese, we would step off, wait for him to go, throw to second, or you can throw back to first. But if they are doing that, usually the runner will either freeze in the base pass and they will manually tell them to go, or they'll just take off, and you can do that. This is very good for third base. A lot of people like to take multiple leads off third base, and then by the time you try to pick them off, they're going home. So, brings us to our second option, which is a pickoff or a lookover. Lookovers aren't very noticeable, but you'll see if I was batting, obviously you would not be seeing this camera. You would be able to see that the pitcher's head is rotating. He is looking over. Can be useful to let somebody know that they're thinking about stealing, but practically basically has no effect on the runner. So that brings us to our slide step. This is the most popular method. You can see it dramatically shortens the delivery of the pitcher. If we throw a normal one here, he's probably gone. He's probably safe. It's a very long motion. So that's why we would slide step. We would cut back on that motion, and hopefully we could get the runner out. Some downsides to the slide step: even if you do throw a perfect pitch with a slide step, there is still a chance it misses outside the par. That is the penalty that a slide step has. Also, it will be harder for you to pinpoint with the slide step. So those two, are disadvantages. Also, it matters what pitch you're throwing. This year, not all pitches are the same speed when you're doing a slide step or a pitch out. So it does kind of matter what you're throwing. You're not going to get that uniform speed that you have had in some of the past years. So if I slide step this 12-6 and the runner goes, he still might be safe because that pitch is 10 miles an hour slower than if we threw like a fastball or something like that. So food for thought. Also, I would not encourage anybody to slide step if the runner's not going. If Trey had 75 speed and 40 steal, I'm not slide stepping. It is pretty scummy to do online. It is frowned upon. But you can do with this information whatever you want. Which brings us to our next option, the pickoff, basically. This is, your lowest success rate chance, but it will work if they are being dumb about their base running. If he is taking a lead at first and stealing, there's like a 50-50 chance a pickoff will work. If he's just taking his lead, it's like a 75% chance at first base. At second base, if somebody is taking a lead at second base and you have somebody covering the bag, which I will cover when we get to that, it's basically guaranteed at that point, especially if they're stealing. It's pretty much guaranteed. You cannot take a lead at second with somebody covering the base. So the way you should be performing your pickoffs is any pitch, does not matter. You hold the left trigger to look over, just like you would with the slide step, but then you are tapping the button of the base you want to throw to. So for me, it's B. There's also the power pick where you hold the button, but to me, the animation's slower, and it's just not that great. So we're going to tap it once. We'll get the throw over, and hopefully get him out if he is running. Obviously, not a huge fan of spamming this too much, but you can do it in online play. So if I were doing that at second, which I will try to set up, but obviously a CPU probably won't take a lead, so I'm not too sure how that's going to go. We'll go second base, one out. And just because there's one out and not two outs, somebody will cover the bag by default. But if they weren't, you would have to do an auto shift or a manual shift. Because I'm not a fan of auto shift. I think you should have auto shift off. In general, I find auto shift rewards bad swings and hurts good swings. I would rather get beat by an opponent that's making good swings than one that is making very late jam singles down the line over and over and over again, very late doubles down the line, stuff like that. So in general, I would encourage you to take off your auto shift. So this is what second base looks like. Basically, if he did ever take a step, which it is the CPU, so I don't know if he will or not. I guess it's just whatever they want to decide. We would pretty much be guaranteed to pick him off. You can see some of these are close, and he's not even taking a lead. So in general, picking off at second is very valuable. If they do take any step at second, they're pretty much guaranteed to be out. Which brings us to our final method, which is going to be the pitch out. And how you perform a pitch out is before you pick any pitch or anything, you're holding the left bumper, you're picking where it says pitch out, and it's going to give you a fastball. Does not matter what release you have, what pitch it says it is. It's always going to be a fastball, and it's always going to be in the, away from the batter where they can't swing at it. They don't even have an option to swing at it. And basically, if a runner runs on pitch out and you get anywhere in the green window, they're guaranteed to be out if they are going. So, again, that's what a pitch out looks like. Which brings me to pop time. There is a quirk called catcher pop time that might speed things up a little bit. I'm not sure how important it is. But I've thrown guys out with Kyle Schwarber. I've thrown guys out with David Ortiz. I've watched people get thrown out by Chipper Jones at catcher. I've won games with David Ortiz at catcher by mistake when the cat glitch was a thing. Catcher D does not matter. The bar is always in the same spot no matter what. And in general, pop time is determined by two things. If they have the quirk or not, and how quickly you hit the base that you want to throw to after the pitch taps the glove. So right here, we're going to try to be very fast about it. and it ate my input. Not sure what that looked like. That's a weird glitch that I've never seen before. So I'm gonna attempt to reset play. And I think we just got a freeze glitch in an offline game. So that's fun. So we're going to restart and I will get back to you. So I've set everything back up. We went just Philly to make it easy. And just, have that fast base runner no matter what. So again, we're going to try to practice on our pop time a little bit. And it's really about how quickly you hit the button that you want to throw to after the ball gets there. You can even preload it, right? You can preload it. You can be tapping the base you want to throw through before the ball gets there. And that's probably going to give you your fastest throw. In general, if you can perfect that throw every time, usually the runner will be out. And usually that is the difference. It's about hitting that perfect throw meter. It's not really bigger or smaller for any other catcher. So that's why Kyle Schwarber is a great catcher. The perfect par region is the same. Now, the overall green region might be smaller, but you can see this is not a hard thing to do by any means. You're just hitting Y, and you're just timing up the bar. You can see we're off right there. Obviously not a super competitive environment. And we're missing a lot. And JT throws from the knees, which is kind of weird now since I'm looking at it. But there we go. There's our perfect. If he ran on any of those, he'd probably be out. And that's without a sidestep. That's without a pitch out. That's just having quick pop time and reaction time. And the way you generally do that is one of two ways. You can either see in your peripheral in that top right the diamond that shows you the base runner. You're looking for movement, but also there is a sound cue. So if you have all your sound played off while you're playing the game, you're really going to have to focus on that movement. But in general, I guess somebody from your dugout or one of your coaches will say, runner going, he's going, runner taking off, something like that. You will hear a yell from your dugout, and it is kind of directional. So you will know, what base runner is going for the most part. And that kind of tips you off that you need to be ready to throw. So practice those pop times. I'm sure we've all either been in that situation or played against somebody that just has awful pop time, and the runner's almost all the way to the base by the time they even get ready to throw. So that avoids those situations. There is, I think, one more thing I can go over. It's pretty goofy, and basically, I would say less than 2% of the community probably knows about it because it is absolutely useless. But if you guys want to have some fun, I will show it off. It is deeking the runner. For you guys that didn't play baseball, don't know about baseball, it's basically a feint or a fake. You do this by holding the left trigger and hitting the right trigger, and they'll pretend like they're going to cover the bag for a pickoff. Happens a lot in real life baseball. Does not happen a lot in this. Really no point in it, especially since he's already in the middle of it, and you can see I've cued the pickoff, and he still does that very lengthy animation. So there's basically no point in ever doing it, but it is a fun little thing. If you do want to mess with your opponents, maybe he'll throw the hitter off if you do that, or maybe he'll stop taking that lead if you do that. But in general, you want to have a lead at second most of the time because it means you can probably pick them off. And yeah, guys, that is pretty much the essentials of base runner and base running and base runner management. It's really not that hard. It is the most overlooked aspect of the game, and it can cost you games. It's not going to win you too many games. You should not be winning games on the base paths. If you're doing that, you're probably stealing too much, and it's probably actually hurting you more than it's helping you. Try to be conservative on the base paths. Don't really worry about trying to get that extra base, right? If you are stealing from first to second with a runner, or especially second to third, chances are 99 speed on first probably scores on the double most of the time. 99 speed from second probably scores on the single most of the time. It's not worth it. Just focus on your hitting, hit the ball harder, put better contact on the ball, stop worrying about the base running. If you're in co-op and you want to, dance on the bases back and forth by taking leads and decreasing leads, that's one thing. But in general, in solo play, your main priority should be focusing on you hitting and seeing the pitch and hitting the pitch well. The base running is secondary. You should never mess up your base running. But you also should not go out of your way to do crazy base running, right? Everybody wants to be playful. They want to, manipulate people, get in these rundowns, and come out on top of the rundowns, and that is very embarrassing. It's a good way to embarrass your opponents. But in general, if you're trying to win more games, you should not be doing that. It's not worth it. So if you guys incorporate this, hopefully you get stolen way less, have a lot quicker innings, don't give up those stolen bases, don't give up a lot of that stuff. I will show you how to make a manual shift, right? I told you to take off auto shift. I should show you how to do a manual shift, so you guys don't get burned by it too much. So we'll do any team we want. We want to be the home team. We want to be pitching. This will be the last thing. I'll show you how to do manual shifts. It's probably the most overlooked aspect in the game. I think it could have a place in competitive play, to be honest. You could do some crazy shifts at some of these custom stadiums, at some of these newer minor league parks. That would probably help you out and probably, decrease the amount of good hits you give up. Basically, it's down on the D-pad in-game. You'll see you have all these options. If I had a runner on second base, obviously I can't do it off rip in this mode. But basically, all you really would have to worry about is either bunt D or third base cover drag. If you're trying to prevent bunting, which is kind of prevalent at low ranks, not really at high ranks. Other than that, the way I would hold a runner at second, if it was not one of the default options, right? If you have 2 outs, it's probably not going to be one of the default options. You're going to have to do a manual shift. You're going to come down here. I prefer the shortstop holds. You could also do it with second base. You would do that. You would pick your position you want to change, and you would pick the depth, and it would be here. It would say, like, hold at second base. And that would make them hold the runner. And if the dude takes a lead or 2 leads, he's basically guaranteed to be picked off. So that's how that works. That's how you do manual shifts. And that is going to be it, guys, for the base running and base runner management tutorial. If you can be perfect at these things, it's going to minimize, how good you have to be at the other stuff. This should be perfect. You should not mess this stuff up. Maybe base runner management, right? It is a mind game to some degree. But in general, do not get out on the bases and throw your opponents out when they make mistakes. And you're going to win more games online. So, if you guys did enjoy the video, feel free to like and subscribe. Until next time, peace.